The autumn rain drummed against the windows of Lincoln High School as 17-year-old Maya Chen clutched her physics textbook closer to her chest, navigating the crowded hallway with practiced invisibility. Her dark hair fell like a curtain around her face, a shield she'd perfected over years of avoiding unwanted attention. Maya had always been the quiet one, the twin who preferred equations to conversations, who found solace in the predictable world of numbers and formulas rather than the chaotic social hierarchy of high school. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya's identical twin sister, Zara, was her complete opposite in every way that mattered. Where Maya was soft-spoken and gentle, Zara was fierce and outspoken. Where Maya avoided conflict, Zara seemed to magnetize toward it. The only things they shared, besides their striking resemblance, were their fierce loyalty to each other and their parents' expectations that they'd both excel academically. But even in academics, they'd chosen different paths. Maya excelled in the sciences, while Zara dominated in debate and literature. The sisters had an unspoken understanding. Maya stayed out of Zara's way during school hours, and Zara tried to respect Maya's need for anonymity. It wasn't that they didn't love each other, quite the opposite. Their bond was deeper than most siblings could ever understand. They shared that mysterious twin connection that people always talked about, the one where they could sense each other's emotions across distances, finish each other's thoughts, and know instinctively when the other was in trouble. This particular Thursday started like any other. Maya had arrived early to school, as was her custom, preferring the quiet hallways before the chaos of 800 teenagers descended. She'd spent the morning in the library reviewing her calculus homework and preparing for her chemistry quiz. The familiar routine brought her comfort. The same table by the window, the same mechanical pencil, the same thermos of green tea her mother had prepared. As the first period bell approached, Maya gathered her books and made her way toward her advanced placement chemistry class. She loved chemistry for its precision, the way molecules behaved according to predictable rules, unlike the unpredictable nature of teenage social dynamics. Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had already hinted that Maya was likely to be the class valedictorian in the sciences, a prospect that both thrilled and terrified her. The hallways were beginning to fill with students, their voices creating a familiar cacophony that Maya had learned to tune out. She kept her head down, focusing on the worn linoleum tiles beneath her feet, counting her steps as a way to maintain calm. 42 steps to her locker, another 68 to the chemistry lab. These small rituals helped her navigate the social minefield that was high school. Maya's reputation as the smart, quiet twin had mostly protected her from the worst of high school cruelty, but it had also made her somewhat invisible. She was the girl teachers loved, but classmates barely noticed. The one who always had the right answers, but never volunteered them unless directly asked. Her grades were impeccable, her behavior exemplary, and her social presence minimal. Zara, meanwhile, was the twin everyone knew. She was student body vice president, captain of the debate team, and had a presence that commanded attention the moment she walked into any room. Teachers respected her intelligence and leadership, while students either admired her confidence or feared her sharp tongue. She had never met a cause she wouldn't champion or an injustice she wouldn't challenge. The sisters had developed different survival strategies for navigating high school. Maya's was invisibility. Blend in, don't make waves, excel quietly, and graduate with minimal drama. Zara's was the opposite. Be so visible, so formidable, that no one would dare cross her. Both strategies had worked well for them until today. As Maya approached her locker, she noticed 3 students she recognized, but had never spoken to. Jessica Martinez was the queen bee of their junior class, the kind of girl who wielded her social status like a weapon. Beside her stood her two constant companions, Madison Foster and Ashley Kim, both eager followers who seemed to exist solely to amplify Jessica's cruelty. Maya had observed Jessica's behavior from afar, watching as she systematically targeted different students throughout their high school career. Maya had always been grateful that her invisibility had kept her off Jessica's radar. She had witnessed the subtle psychological warfare, the exclusion from lunch tables, the whispered comments designed to be just loud enough for the target to hear, the social media posts that destroyed reputations with surgical precision. But today felt different. As Maya fumbled with her combination lock, she could feel their eyes on her, could hear their hushed giggles. She tried to ignore them, focusing on getting her books for first period, but there was something predatory in their attention that made her stomach twist with anxiety. Maya's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her chemistry textbook, a thick volume that contained not just her homework, but also her detailed notes for the upcoming midterm exam. Those notes represented weeks of careful preparation, color-coded diagrams, and practice problems she'd worked through multiple times. In many ways, that textbook represented everything Maya valued: order, knowledge, preparation, and control. She could feel the three girls moving closer, and every instinct told her to hurry, to grab her books and escape to the safety of Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom. But as Maya turned to leave, she found her path blocked.
"Well, well, well," Jessica Martinez's voice cut through the hallway noise like a blade, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against her designer handbag. "If it isn't Maya Chen, the invisible twin." Her tone carried that particular brand of teenage cruelty that could make even the most confident person shrink. "I've been watching you, Maya, always so quiet, so forgettable." Maya's grip tightened on her textbook as she tried to step around Jessica, but Madison quickly blocked her path from the other side. The three girls had formed a semicircle, effectively trapping Maya against her locker. The hallway around them continued its normal flow of morning activity, but Maya felt as if she existed in a bubble of mounting tension that no one else could see. "Excuse me," Maya whispered, her voice barely audible above the hallway chatter. She hated how weak she sounded, how her voice seemed to disappear when she needed it most. This was exactly the kind of confrontation she'd spent 3 years of high school carefully avoiding. "Did you hear that?" Ashley Kim laughed, a sharp sound that made Maya flinch. "She actually spoke. I was starting to think maybe you were mute." "You know, we've been wondering about you, Maya. Always sitting alone, always hiding behind those books. What makes you think you're so much better than everyone else?" The accusation hit Maya like a physical blow. Better than everyone else? She'd never thought that about herself. Quite the opposite. Maya had always felt like she was barely keeping her head above water socially, like she was fundamentally lacking some essential skill that came naturally to everyone else. The idea that her quietness and academic focus could be interpreted as superiority had never occurred to her. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," Maya managed to say, her voice still quiet but slightly stronger than before. "I just want to get to class." Jessica stepped closer, invading Maya's personal space with calculated precision. "See, that's what I'm talking about, that superior attitude. You think because you get good grades and your sister is some big shot that you can just ignore everyone else? That you're too good to participate in normal social interactions?" Maya's confusion must have shown on her face because Madison jumped in with cruel delight. "Oh, don't pretend you don't know what we're talking about. You act like you're above all the normal high school stuff, like you're too intellectual for the rest of us mere mortals." The irony wasn't lost on Maya. These girls were attacking her for the very strategy she'd developed to avoid exactly this kind of attention. Her quietness wasn't arrogance, it was self-preservation. Her focus on academics was her way of finding value in a world where she felt socially inadequate. But she couldn't find the words to explain this, couldn't bridge the gap between her internal reality and their perception. "You know what I think?
Jessica continued, her tone taking on a tone of mock concern. I think Maya Chen needs to learn how to interact with people. I think she needs to come down off her high horse and join the real world. The warning bells were going off in Maya's head now. She'd witnessed enough of Jessica's campaigns against other students to recognize the escalating pattern. This wasn't just casual cruelty. This was the beginning of something more systematic, more devastating. Maya's eyes darted around the hallway looking for an escape route or hoping to catch sight of a teacher, but the adult supervision seemed notably absent. Please, Maya said, her voice carrying a note of desperation she couldn't hide. I really need to get to chemistry. Mrs. Rodriguez doesn't like when we're late, and I have a quiz today. A quiz? Madison exclaimed with exaggerated surprise. Oh no, guys, Maya has a quiz. We wouldn't want to interfere with her very important academic achievements. The sarcasm in her voice was thick enough to cut, and Maya felt her cheeks burning with embarrassment. She was acutely aware of other students beginning to notice the confrontation, their conversations quieting as they sensed drama unfolding. Maya's worst nightmare was becoming reality. She was becoming visible in exactly the way she'd spent years trying to avoid. Ashley moved closer to Maya's other side, completing the trap. You know what, Maya? I think you've been carrying those books around like there's some kind of shield, like they make you special or something. Maybe it's time you learned that your precious books can't protect you from everything. Maya's heart was racing now, her palms sweating as she clutched her chemistry textbook even tighter. She could feel the panic rising in her chest, that familiar sensation of the world closing in around her. This was her worst-case scenario playing out in real time. Public humiliation, social confrontation, becoming the center of negative attention. What's in that book that's so important, anyway? Asked Jessica with false curiosity, reaching out toward Maya's textbook. What makes it worth more than being friendly to your classmates? Maya instinctively pulled the book closer to her chest, a movement that didn't go unnoticed by the three girls. The textbook contained not just her homework, but weeks of careful preparation for her midterm exam. Her notes were color-coded and detailed, representing countless hours of study. More than that, though, the book represented her safe space, her area of expertise, her proof that she had value even if she couldn't navigate social situations. Don't touch it, Maya said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. It was perhaps the strongest statement she'd made in the entire confrontation, and it seemed to amuse Jessica rather than deter her. Oh, now she's getting feisty, Jessica laughed, and Maya realized with growing horror that her resistance was only encouraging them. I think our little bookworm is finally showing some personality. The crowd around them was growing larger now, drawn by that magnetic pull that teenage drama always seemed to exert. Maya could hear whispers and see phones being lifted, the modern teenage instinct to document and share any social spectacle. Her nightmare was multiplying exponentially. Not only was she being publicly humiliated, but it was being recorded for posterity and viral distribution. You know what, Maya? Jessica's voice took on a tone of mock sweetness that was somehow more terrifying than outright aggression. I think you've been hiding behind these books for too long. I think it's time you learn to live in the real world, where people actually matter more than equations and formulas. Before Maya could react, Jessica's hand shot out and grabbed the chemistry textbook. Maya's reflexive grip tightened, creating a brief tug-of-war that lasted only seconds before Jessica's superior leverage and Maya's surprise gave the bully the advantage. The book was yanked from Maya's hands with enough force to tear some of the pages. No! Maya's voice cracked as she watched her careful notes flutter to the ground. Weeks of preparation, meticulously organized study materials, practice problems she'd worked through multiple times, all scattered across the dirty hallway floor. Students stepped around the pages, some accidentally kicking them further away, adding insult to injury. Madison and Ashley immediately began grabbing other books from Maya's arms and backpack, treating her school materials like confetti. Her calculus textbook hit the floor with a solid thud, followed by her English literature anthology and her biology lab notebook. Papers scattered everywhere. Homework assignments, study guides, the essay she'd been working on for weeks. "Stop!" Maya cried out, dropping to her knees to try to gather her scattered work. Her hands shook as she reached for pages that were already dirty from the hallway floor, some bearing shoe prints from passing students. 3 years of high school spent avoiding exactly this kind of public humiliation, and now it was happening in the most visible way possible. Jessica stood over Maya, her satisfaction evident as she watched the quiet girl scramble to collect her academic life from the floor. "Look at her," she announced to the growing crowd. "This is what happens when you think you're too good for everyone else. This is what happens when you hide behind books instead of learning how to be a real person." Maya's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. Not here, not in front of everyone. She couldn't give them that satisfaction. But as she crawled around gathering her materials, she felt something inside her breaking. This wasn't just about books or papers. This was about her dignity, her sense of safety, her carefully constructed world being destroyed in front of an audience. "Aw, is the little genius going to cry?" Ashley taunted, pulling out her phone to record Maya's humiliation. "This is definitely going on social media. Maya Chen learns that books can't save you from real life." The sound of approaching footsteps made Maya look up hopefully, thinking perhaps a teacher was finally coming to intervene. But instead, she saw something that made her heart race for an entirely different reason. Striding down the hallway with purpose and fury was Zara, Maya's twin sister, and the expression on her face was unlike anything Maya had ever seen before. Zara had been in the library when she felt it, that inexplicable twin connection that told her Maya was in distress. It started as a knot in her stomach, a sudden anxiety that had nothing to do with her own situation. She tried to ignore it at first, thinking maybe Maya was just nervous for a test, but the feeling had intensified until she couldn't concentrate on her own work. Following her instincts, Zara had left the library and made her way through the school, the feeling growing stronger as she got closer to Maya's usual route to chemistry class. When she turned the corner and saw the crowd gathered around someone on the floor, when she realized that someone was her sister surrounded by scattered papers and books, something primal and protective roared to life inside her. Zara had always been Maya's protector, even when they were small children. She was the one who spoke up when Maya was too shy, the one who confronted neighborhood bullies, the one who made sure Maya never faced the world's cruelties alone. Seeing her gentle, kind sister being humiliated by Jessica Martinez and her followers triggered every protective instinct Zara possessed. The crowd parted as Zara approached, her presence commanding attention in a way that Maya's never could. Students knew Zara Chen's reputation. She was formidable in debate, fearless in confrontation, and absolutely ruthless when defending the people she cared about. The energy in the hallway shifted palpably as she surveyed the scene before her. Maya lifted up from the floor where she was still gathering her scattered papers, relief flooding her face as she saw her sister. But Zara's expression wasn't one of comfort. It was pure, controlled fury. Her dark eyes swept over the scene, taking in Maya's tears, the scattered books, Jessica's smug expression, and the phones recording everything. "Well," Zara said, her voice carrying clearly across the now silent hallway, "this is interesting." Jessica, who had been reveling in her power over Maya, suddenly looked less confident. She knew who Zara was, knew her reputation, but she was committed to her performance now with the crowd watching. "Oh, look," Jessica tried to maintain her bravado. "The other twin shows up. Come to rescue your precious little sister who can't handle the real world." Zara's smile was sharp as a blade, and Maya recognized it as the expression her sister wore right before she utterly destroyed an opponent in debate. The crowd seemed to hold its collective breath, sensing that something significant was about to happen.
"Actually," Zara said, her voice deceptively calm as she surveyed the scene before her, "I'm here to witness what appears to be a fascinating social experiment.
Please, don't let me interrupt. I'm curious to see how this plays out. Jessica's confidence wavered slightly, but she was too invested in her performance to back down now. Your sister needed to learn a lesson about thinking she's better than everyone else. Maybe you could use the same lesson. Zara's laugh was soft and genuinely amused, which somehow made it more unsettling than anger would have been. She moved with deliberate slowness, helping Maya to her feet while keeping her eyes fixed on Jessica. You think my sister believes she's better than everyone else? That's genuinely fascinating. Tell me more about this theory of yours. The crowd pressed closer, sensing that this confrontation was entering uncharted territory. They had expected screaming, maybe some hair-pulling, typical teenage drama. Instead, Zara was treating this like one of her debate matches, and anyone who'd ever seen her compete knew how those usually ended. Madison, emboldened by Jessica's lead, stepped forward. She acts like she's too good to talk to people, like we're all beneath her because we're not as smart as she is. Ah, I see, Zara nodded thoughtfully, as if she were genuinely considering this perspective. So your solution to what you perceive as antisocial behavior was to destroy her personal property and humiliate her in front of a crowd? Interesting approach to conflict resolution. Ashley shifted uncomfortably. When Zara put it that way, their actions sounded less like justified retaliation and more like simple bullying. But Jessica wasn't about to let her position be undermined by logic. Sometimes people need to be brought down a peg, Jessica said, crossing her arms defensively. Your sister needed to learn that the real world doesn't revolve around books and grades. Zara's expression remained pleasant, almost conversational. You know, Jessica, I've been watching you operate for 3 years now. It's been quite educational, really. You have this remarkable talent for identifying people's vulnerabilities and exploiting them for social gain. It's almost impressive in a sociopathic sort of way. The words hit Jessica like a slap, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Zara had just publicly diagnosed Jessica's behavior in clinical terms, stripping away the social justification and revealing it for what it was. I'm not, Jessica started, but Zara held up a hand. Oh, please let me finish. I'm just getting to the interesting part. Zara's voice carried clearly, ensuring everyone in the growing crowd could hear. You see, what I find fascinating is your choice of targets. You never go after people who can fight back effectively, do you? You choose the quiet ones, the isolated ones, the ones who won't or can't defend themselves publicly. Maya watched in amazement as her sister systematically dismantled Jessica's social power structure. This was Zara in her element, using words as precisely as a surgeon uses a scalpel, cutting straight to the heart of the matter with devastating accuracy. But here's what I think you've miscalculated, Zara continued, her tone remaining conversational even as her words grew more pointed. I think you've mistaken kindness for weakness and introversion for arrogance. My sister isn't quiet because she thinks she's better than you. She's quiet because she has something you clearly lack, self-awareness. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. This wasn't the typical teenage confrontation they'd expected to witness. This was a masterclass in intellectual warfare. Ashley tried to interject. You can't just what? Zara turned her attention to Ashley with laser focus. Can't just point out that you three just spent 10 minutes systematically destroying someone's property while a crowd watched and recorded it? Can't mention that you've essentially created video evidence of yourselves engaging in behavior that could easily be classified as harassment and destruction of property? The mention of legal consequences made several students in the crowd glance nervously at their phones. Suddenly, recording this confrontation didn't seem like harmless entertainment. Jessica's face had gone pale, but she tried to maintain her composure. It's just books. It's not like we hurt her. Just books, Zara repeated thoughtfully. Let me ask you something, Jessica. What would happen if I walked into your BMW right now and started throwing out everything in it? Your makeup, your designer purse, your cheerleading uniform? Would that be just things, too? That's completely different, Jessica snapped, her calm facade cracking. Is it? Zara asked with genuine curiosity. Those books represent weeks of Maya's work, her preparation for tests that affect her future, her notes and research. To her, they're as valuable as your material possessions are you. More valuable, actually, because they represent effort and time, not just money. Maya felt a warm surge of gratitude as she listened to her sister articulate things she'd never been able to express herself. Zara understood the true value of what had been destroyed, understood why the scattered papers represented more than just homework. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Madison tried a different approach. We were just trying to help her be more social. She needed to learn to interact with people. Zara's laugh was sharp this time. So your method of encouraging social interaction was public humiliation? Fascinating. Did they teach that technique in your child psychology classes, or did you develop that strategy on your own? The sarcasm was devastating, and Madison flushed red. Several students in the crowd were now looking uncomfortable, perhaps recognizing that they'd been complicit in something uglier than they had initially realized. You can't just, Zara continued, her voice taking on the tone she used when delivering a closing argument in debate. I think you saw someone who was happy and successful without needing your approval or validation, and that threatened you. I think you couldn't stand that Maya has found her own path to confidence and achievement that doesn't require tearing other people down.
Jessica's composure was cracking visibly now, her carefully constructed social dominance being dismantled piece by piece in front of the very audience she'd used to establish her power. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she spat, abandoning her attempts at justification and falling back on raw defensiveness. "Actually," Zara replied with that same conversational tone that made her words even more cutting, "I know I'm smart. But more importantly, I'm observant. And what I've observed over the past few minutes is quite revealing." She gestured to the crowd around them, many of whom were still holding their phones but now looking uncertain about what they were witnessing. "Look around you, Jessica. Really look. Half these people look uncomfortable, and the other half are realizing they just watched you commit what could easily be classified as harassment and destruction of property." Zara pulled out her own phone, not to record, but to make a point. "In fact, let me share some interesting information about cyberbullying and harassment laws in our state. Did you know that recording someone's humiliation and posting it online can result in misdemeanor charges? Did you know that destruction of someone else's property, even school books, can be classified as vandalism?" The effect on the crowd was immediate. Several phones disappeared quickly into pockets and bags. Students who had been eager to watch drama unfold suddenly seemed to remember they had places to be. The audience that Jessica had counted on to amplify her power was dissolving as the potential consequences became clear. Ashley looked panicked now. "We weren't trying to break any laws. We were just..." "Just what?" Zara interrupted, her tone still maddeningly calm. "Just teaching my sister a lesson? Just putting her in her place? Just having a little fun at her expense?" Each phrase was delivered with surgical precision, highlighting the cruelty behind their actions. Maya watched in fascination as her sister turned the power dynamic completely upside down. Jessica, who had seemed so dominant and confident just minutes before, now looked like exactly what she was, a bully whose tactics had been exposed and whose victims had found their voice. "Here's what's going to happen," Zara announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had never doubted she would be obeyed. "You three are going to help Maya collect every single page of her notes and homework. You're going to carry her books to her chemistry class and explain to Mrs. Rodriguez why Maya is late. And you're going to personally ensure that any video footage of this incident disappears permanently." "You can't make us do anything," Madison protested, but her voice lacked conviction. Zara's smile was brilliant and terrifying. "Can't I? Well, let's see. I could mention this incident to Principal Martinez. That's Jessica's mom's maiden name, isn't it, Jessica?
Interesting how you chose to attend the school where your aunt is principal rather than the one in your actual district. I wonder how she'd feel about video evidence of her niece engaging in harassment." Jessica's face went white. The family connection she thought was safely hidden had just been exposed, along with the implication that her behavior could have consequences that reached far beyond school disciplinary measures. Or I could discuss this with Mr. Chen in the school district's legal department. That's our father, by the way. He's particularly interested in cases involving harassment and cyberbullying, especially when they involve destruction of educational materials. He's been looking for good test cases to strengthen the district's anti-bullying policies. The revelation that their father worked in the school district's legal department sent another wave of uncomfort through the remaining crowd. What had started as entertainment was now looking like evidence in a potential legal proceeding. Ashley was the first to crack. Okay, we'll help pick up the papers. This got out of hand. We never meant for it to go this far." "Didn't you?" Zara asked with genuine curiosity. "Because from where I'm standing, this looks exactly like it was planned to go. Public humiliation, destruction of property, recording for social media distribution. This wasn't spontaneous teenage drama. This was systematic harassment." Maya found her voice for the first time since Zara had arrived. "I just want to go to chemistry class. I just want to take my quiz and get through the day." The simple dignity in Maya's statement seemed to highlight the absurdity of the entire situation. Here was a girl who had been trying to do nothing more than attend class and learn, and she'd been attacked for it by people who had nothing better to do than tear others down. Zara's expression softened as she looked at her sister, but when she turned back to Jessica, Madison, and Ashley, her eyes were steel again. "You know what's the really pathetic part is? Maya wasn't ignoring you because she thought she was better than you. She was ignoring you because she was genuinely busy with things that mattered to her. She wasn't being antisocial, she was being focused. And you turned that focus, that dedication, into a reason to destroy her work." The truth of this statement seemed to hit several people in the crowd. Maya hadn't been stuck up or arrogant. She had simply been a student trying to excel academically. The interpretation of her behavior as superiority had been entirely in her attackers' minds. Jessica made one last attempt to salvage her position. "Fine, we'll help clean up, but this doesn't change anything. She still needs to learn how to be more social." Zara's laugh was genuinely amused this time. "Jessica, let me give you some free advice. When you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. You've gone from harassment to doubling down on victim blaming. At this point, you're just providing more evidence of exactly the kind of person you are."
The cleanup process was excruciating for Jessica, Madison, and Ashley. Under Zara's watchful eye and the lingering presence of students who had decided this was still worth witnessing, the three girls had to crawl around the hallway floor collecting Maya's scattered papers and books. What had been an act of dominance and humiliation was now reversed, with the bullies performing the very actions they had forced their victim to endure. Maya watched in amazement as pages of her carefully organized notes were retrieved from under lockers, around corners, and from beneath the feet of passing students. Some were dirty, some were torn, but each page represented hours of her work, and seeing them treated with care rather than contempt felt like a small restoration of justice. "This page has calculus problems on it," Ashley said hesitantly, holding up a sheet that had been stepped on multiple times. "I think some of the work got smudged." "Then you'll help her redo those problems," Zara replied matter-of-factly. "You destroyed her work, you help restore it. Seems fair." Madison looked horrified. "But we don't understand calculus. We're not in advanced placement classes." "Then you'll learn," Zara said with a shrug. "Or you'll find someone who can help. The point is, you created this problem, you're responsible for solving it." Jessica stood up with an armload of Maya's books, her designer outfit now dusty from kneeling on the hallway floor. The role reversal was complete. She was now carrying Maya's books instead of destroying them, serving instead of dominating. "This is ridiculous. We said we were sorry." "Did you?" Zara asked with genuine interest. "I don't recall hearing an apology.
I heard justifications, excuses, and attempts to minimize what you did, but I don't remember an actual apology. The observation hit home because it was accurate. Throughout the entire confrontation, Jessica, Madison, and Ashley had tried to defend their actions, explain them away, or shift responsibility, but none of them had actually apologized for the harm they had caused. Maya spoke up quietly, surprising everyone, including herself. An apology would be nice. But more than that, I'd like to understand why. Why me? Why today? What did I ever do to make you think I deserved this? The question hung in the air, simple and direct. Maya wasn't asking for an apology born of consequence or fear. She was asking for genuine understanding. After 3 years of successfully avoiding this kind of confrontation, she wanted to know what had finally made her a target. Jessica shifted uncomfortably, still holding Maya's books. The question forced her to examine her own motivations, something she clearly wasn't comfortable doing in public. You always seem so sure of yourself, so content, like nothing could touch you. So you decided to test that theory? Maya asked, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. I guess so. It wasn't fair that you seemed so untouchable, so above all the drama and stress that the rest of us deal with. Maya considered this, tilting her head slightly in a gesture that reminded everyone present that she and Zara were indeed identical twins. But I'm not above the drama. I just choose not to participate in it. There's a difference between being superior and being selective about where you spend your energy. The distinction was lost on no one, least of all Jessica. Maya had just demonstrated more emotional intelligence and self-awareness in one sentence than Jessica had shown in 3 years of social manipulation. I spend my energy on things that matter to me: chemistry, calculus, books, learning. I don't spend it on social drama because I don't find that fulfilling. That doesn't make me better than people who enjoy social interaction. It just makes me different. Ashley looked genuinely confused. But don't you want to be popular? Don't you care what people think of you? Maya's smile was gentle but firm. I care what some people think of me. People whose opinions I value. People who know me well enough for their thoughts to matter. I don't care about the opinions of people who would judge me without bothering to understand me. The simple wisdom in this statement seemed to reverberate through the remaining crowd. Maya had just articulated something that many teenagers struggled with: the difference between healthy self-regard and the desperate need for universal approval. Madison was the first to offer a genuine apology. I'm sorry, she said quietly, not meeting Maya's eyes. I'm sorry we destroyed your work. I'm sorry we made you feel bad. I don't really understand why we did it, but I know it was wrong. The apology was imperfect, but sincere, and Maya accepted it with a nod. Thank you. That means something. Ashley followed Madison's lead, though her apology came with visible reluctance. I'm sorry too. We shouldn't have messed with your stuff. It was mean. The words were basic, almost childlike in their simplicity, but they carried genuine remorse that hadn't been there before. All eyes turned to Jessica, who was still holding Maya's books and looking deeply uncomfortable. The weight of genuine accountability was clearly foreign to her, and she struggled visibly with the concept of apologizing without conditions or justifications. Jessica started, then stopped, her usual confidence completely absent. I'm sorry, Maya. I'm sorry we ruined your notes and made you feel bad. I think maybe I was jealous of how together you always seem, like you know who you are and you're comfortable with it. Most of us are still figuring that out. The admission was more vulnerable than anyone had expected from Jessica, and it revealed something important about the psychology behind her behavior. Maya's apparent confidence and self-knowledge had triggered Jessica's own insecurities about her identity and worth. Maya considered this apology carefully before responding. Thank you for being honest. I understand being jealous. I'm sometimes jealous of people who find social situations easy, the way they do for you and Zara. But understanding why something happened doesn't excuse it. You still chose to hurt me instead of examining your own feelings. The mature response caught Jessica off guard. Maya wasn't accepting the jealousy as justification, but she also wasn't dismissing Jessica's humanity. It was a level of emotional sophistication that highlighted exactly why Maya had been targeted. Her quiet strength and self-awareness were indeed intimidating to people who were still struggling with their own identities. Zara had remained silent during the apologies, allowing Maya to handle this part of the confrontation herself. Now she stepped forward slightly, her presence reminding everyone that while Maya might be willing to accept apologies, Zara was still very much in protective mode. "The apologies are a good start," Zara said, her voice carrying that same calm authority that had characterized her entire intervention. "But apologies without changed behavior are meaningless. So here's what's going to happen moving forward." She addressed the three girls with the confidence of someone laying out non-negotiable terms. First, any video footage or photos from this incident get deleted, permanently. If I see anything from today's events on social media, in group chats, or circulating in any form, there will be consequences that make this morning look pleasant. Jessica nodded quickly, pulling out her phone to delete the photos Ashley had taken. Ashley and Madison followed suit, though they looked reluctant to destroy what they probably seen as valuable social currency. Second, Zara continued, Maya's study schedule and academic routines are off-limits. Her choice to focus on her education instead of social drama is not a character flaw that needs correcting. It's a personal decision that deserves respect. This addressed the root of the problem, the interpretation of Maya's academic focus as anti-social behavior that needed to be punished or corrected. Zara was establishing clear boundaries around her sister's right to prioritize her studies without social persecution. Third, if you have issues with someone's behavior in the future, you address it directly with them in private, or you involve appropriate adults. You don't stage public humiliations for entertainment. That's not conflict resolution, that's cruelty. The crowd had thinned considerably during the cleanup and apology process, but the students who remained were listening intently to Zara's conditions. She was essentially giving them a masterclass in healthy conflict resolution, highlighting the difference between addressing genuine concerns and engaging in bullying behavior. Maya stepped forward slightly, finding her own voice again. "I want to add something," she said, her voice quiet but clear. "I don't hate social interaction. I'm not antisocial or arrogant. I'm just selective about how I spend my time and energy. If you had wanted to get to know me, you could have tried talking to me instead of attacking me." The simple statement highlighted the absurdity of the entire situation. If Jessica, Madison, and Ashley had been genuinely interested in encouraging Maya to be more social, they had chosen literally the worst possible approach. Their method had guaranteed the opposite of their stated goal. "I eat lunch in a library because it's quiet and I can review notes. But if someone wanted to sit with me and talk about chemistry or calculus or books, I'd probably enjoy that. If someone wanted to study together or needed help with homework, I'd be happy to help. But I'm not going to pretend to be someone I'm not just to fit in." Jessica looked genuinely surprised by this revelation. "I didn't know you'd be open to talking to people. You always seem so closed off." Quiet doesn't mean closed off. It means I don't waste energy on conversations that don't interest me. But I love talking about things I'm passionate about. Most people just assume I don't want to talk at all. Zara smiled slightly, proud of her sister for articulating something that many introverted people struggle to explain. Maya was demonstrating that introversion wasn't about disliking people. It was about being selective about social interactions and preferring depth over breadth in relationships. The first period bell rang, jolting everyone back to the reality that they were supposed to be in class. Mrs. Rodriguez would indeed be wondering where Maya was, and her chemistry quiz was still waiting. "I need to get to class," Maya said, reaching for her books. Jessica handed them over carefully, treating them with the respect they should have received from the beginning. "We'll walk you there," Ashley offered hesitantly, "to explain to Mrs. Rodriguez why you're late." Maya considered this offer, weighing whether she wanted the continued attention that would come with arriving at chemistry class with her former tormentors in tow, but she recognized that accountability was part of the healing process. "Okay," she agreed, "but after that, I'd like some space to process all of this."
The walk to Mrs. Rodriguez's chemistry classroom was surreal for Maya. 15 minutes earlier, she had been cowering on the hallway floor while these same three girls destroyed her academic materials. Now they were walking beside her like some sort of protective escort, carrying her books and preparing to explain her tardiness to her teacher. Zara walked slightly behind the group, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough back to allow Maya to maintain her newfound independence. The dynamic between the twins had shifted during the confrontation. Maya had discovered her own voice and strength, while Zara had learned when to step forward and when to step back in support of her sister. "Mrs. Rodriguez is going to ask questions," Maya said as they approached the classroom door. "She doesn't tolerate disruptions, and she's going to want to know why 4 students are arriving together 20 minutes into class period." Jessica looked nervous for the first time since the apologies began. Facing an angry chemistry teacher suddenly seemed more intimidating than facing down Zara had been. "What should we tell her?" "The truth," Maya said simply. "That you destroyed my homework and notes, and now you're helping me explain why I'm late for my quiz. Mrs. Rodriguez appreciates honesty, even when the truth is uncomfortable." Madison shifted Maya's biology textbook to her other arm, still trying to process how completely the morning's power dynamic had reversed. "What if she asks why we did it?" Maya paused at the classroom door, considering the question. "Then you tell her what you told me, that you thought I was being antisocial and needed to be taught a lesson. She'll probably have some interesting thoughts about that approach to conflict resolution." The prospect of explaining their behavior to a respected adult authority figure clearly made all 3 girls uncomfortable, which Maya recognized as a positive development. Actions that seemed justified in the heat of social drama often revealed their true nature when subjected to adult scrutiny. Mrs. Rodriguez looked up from her desk as Maya entered, followed by 3 unexpected companions. Her expression shifted from mild concern about Maya's tardiness to sharp interest as she took in the unusual group dynamic and the books being carried by Jessica, Madison, and Ashley. "Miss Chen," Mrs. Rodriguez said, her voice carrying that particular teacher tone that suggested she was prepared to be understanding but expected a good explanation. "You're quite late, and you've brought guests. I assume there's a story here." Maya took a deep breath, drawing on the confidence she'd discovered during her confrontation with Jessica. "Yes, ma'am. These 3 students destroyed my chemistry notes and homework, along with other school materials. They're here to explain why I'm late for my quiz and to take responsibility for their actions." Mrs. Rodriguez's eyebrows rose sharply, and her gaze shifted to Jessica, Madison, and Ashley with laser focus. In her 15 years of teaching, she had developed an excellent radar for teenage drama and an even better sense of when that drama had crossed the line into something more serious. "I see," she said, her tone carefully neutral. "And why, exactly, did you 3 decide that destroying another student's academic work was an appropriate course of action?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Faced with a respected adult authority figure, the justifications that seemed reasonable in the hallway suddenly sounded childish and cruel. Jessica struggled to find words that would make their behavior sound rational. We thought Maya was being antisocial. We wanted her to be more social and interact with people." Mrs. Rodriguez's expression didn't change, but Maya could see the storm brewing behind her professional composure. "And your method for encouraging social interaction was to destroy her academic materials in front of a crowd. Fascinating approach to relationship building." The sarcasm in Mrs. Rodriguez's voice was devastating, and Ashley actually flinched. Teachers had a way of making teenage justifications sound exactly as ridiculous as they actually are. "We're sorry," Madison said quickly, sensing that Mrs. Rodriguez was not going to be as patient with excuses as Maya had been. "We know it was wrong. We helped pick up everything, and we're going to help Maya redo any work that got damaged." "Are you now?"
Mrs. Rodriguez stood from her desk, moving to examine Maya's chemistry textbook and notes. Her expression grew darker as she saw the torn pages and dirty footprints on carefully organized study materials. "Miss Chen," she addressed Maya directly, "these notes represent weeks of preparation for today's quiz and the upcoming midterm exam. The level of organization and detail here demonstrates exactly the kind of academic dedication I try to encourage in all my students." She turned back to Jessica, Madison, and Ashley, her professional composure intact but her disapproval clear. "So you three decided that this dedication to learning needed to be corrected? That success through hard work was somehow a character flaw?" None of them could meet her eyes. When Mrs. Rodriguez put it in those terms, their actions sounded not just cruel, but actively anti-intellectual, as if they had attacked Maya for the crime of caring about her education. "Here's what's going to happen," Mrs. Rodriguez continued, moving into full teacher authority mode. "Miss Chen will take her quiz during study hall, giving her time to review her materials despite your interference. You three will be writing a formal apology letter to Maya, a reflection paper on appropriate conflict resolution, and you'll be meeting with the guidance counselor to discuss your understanding of harassment and academic sabotage." The consequences were swift and direct, addressing both the immediate harm to Maya and the broader educational opportunity for her attackers. Mrs. Rodriguez was treating this as a learning experience, but not the kind that Jessica, Madison, and Ashley had intended to create. "Additionally," Mrs. Rodriguez continued, "you'll be helping Miss Chen reorganize and restore any damaged study materials on your own time until everything is back to its original condition or better." Maya felt a surge of gratitude toward Mrs. Rodriguez, who had not only taken her situation seriously, but had also crafted consequences that focused on restoration rather than just punishment. The chemistry teacher understood that Maya's academic work had value beyond just homework. It represented time, effort, and preparation that couldn't simply be dismissed. "Mrs. Rodriguez," Jessica began hesitantly, "we didn't mean for it to be such a big deal. It was just—" "Just what?" Mrs. Rodriguez interrupted, her voice sharp. "Just books? Just homework?" "Miss Chen, would you share with these three what those just notes represented in terms of time and effort?" Maya looked at her chemistry notes, many pages now wrinkled and torn, despite the careful cleanup. "I've been working on these since the beginning of the semester," she explained quietly. "Every chapter is color-coded by topic, with practice problems I've worked through multiple times. The margins have my thoughts on how different concepts connect to each other. I spend about 2 hours every night organizing and reviewing these notes." The weight of what they had destroyed was becoming clearer to Jessica, Madison, and Ashley. This wasn't just casual homework that could be quickly redone. It was a comprehensive study system that represented dozens of hours of focused work. 2 hours every night, Mrs. Rodriguez repeated, letting that sink in. That's 14 hours a week, roughly 56 hours a month dedicated to mastering chemistry concepts. And you three decided that this level of academic commitment was, what did you call it? Antisocial behavior that needed correction? Madison looked genuinely ashamed now. "We didn't think about how much work it was. We just saw books and papers." "And that," Mrs. Rodriguez said with the tone of someone delivering an important lesson, "is exactly the problem. You didn't think. You saw a successful student and decided that success needed to be torn down rather than understood or emulated." Maya watched this exchange with fascination. Mrs. Rodriguez was articulating something that Maya had never been able to express herself, that her academic focus wasn't antisocial or arrogant, but was actually a form of dedication that deserved respect rather than punishment.
Miss Chen, I want you to know that your approach to learning is exactly what I hope to see from all my students. The fact that you've found ways to make chemistry meaningful and engaging for yourself, that you've developed study systems that work for your learning style, that you consistently put in the effort to truly master the material, these are gifts, not flaws. The validation meant more to Maya than she could express. For 3 years, she had worried that there was something wrong with her for preferring textbooks to parties, for finding genuine joy in solving complex equations, for choosing academic excellence over social acceptance. Hearing a respected teacher affirm that her choices were not only valid but admirable was profoundly healing. Zara, who had been silently observing from the doorway, stepped forward slightly. Mrs. Rodriguez, I want to thank you for taking this seriously. Maya was starting to doubt herself, wondering if maybe she really was being antisocial or arrogant. Absolutely not, Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly. Miss Chen, you are one of the most genuinely curious and dedicated students I've taught in 15 years. The questions you ask show real understanding, and the effort you put into your work is remarkable. Never let anyone make you feel bad for caring about your education. Jessica looked confused. But she never talks to anyone. She eats lunch alone. She doesn't participate in school activities. Mrs. Rodriguez turned to Jessica with barely concealed impatience. Miss Martinez, do you talk to everyone in school? Do you participate in every activity? Do you never eat alone or spend time focused on your own interests? Well, no, but what makes your social choices acceptable while hers are antisocial? Why is it perfectly normal for you to be selective about your interactions, but problematic when Miss Chen makes similar choices? The double standard was obvious once it was pointed out, and Jessica had no answer for it. Maya's choices were being judged by a different standard simply because they were different from the mainstream social expectations. The truth is, Mrs. Rodriguez continued, Maya Chen demonstrates more genuine social awareness than most teenagers. She knows herself well enough to make choices that align with her values and goals. She doesn't try to be someone she's not just to fit in. That's not antisocial, that's mature. Ashley spoke up hesitantly. But don't you think she should try to be more social, to make more friends? Maya answered for herself this time, her voice steady and confident. I have friends. I have my sister who understands me completely. I have study partners in my advanced classes who share my interests. I have online communities focused on chemistry and mathematics where I can discuss topics I'm passionate about with people around the world. My social life looks different from yours, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that it's insufficient. And, Zara added with a slight smile, Maya tutors students who are struggling in math and science. She volunteers at the elementary school helping kids with homework. She's more socially engaged than most people realize. She just engages in ways that match her personality and values. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded approvingly. Exactly. Maya Chen has found ways to contribute to her community that utilize her strengths and interests. That's not antisocial behavior, that's conscious citizenship. The conversation was revealing layers of Maya's character that had been invisible to her classmates, largely because they had never bothered to look beyond her quiet exterior. She wasn't the antisocial, arrogant person they had imagined. She was a thoughtful, engaged young woman who had simply chosen a different path through adolescence.
As the morning continued to unfold, Maya found herself in the unprecedented position of being the center of positive attention. Students who had witnessed the morning's events began approaching her with curiosity rather than judgment, and several classmates asked if they could study with her for the upcoming chemistry midterm. During lunch, instead of her usual solitary meal in the library, Maya found herself surrounded by a small group of students from her advanced placement classes. They talked about everything from chemical bonding theories to college application strategies. and Maya discovered that her quiet demeanor had actually made her seem mysteriously knowledgeable to many of her peers. "I always wanted to ask you questions in calculus class," admitted David Kim, a student who had struggled with derivatives all semester. "But I thought you might think my questions were stupid." Maya looked genuinely surprised. "I love questions about math. I think it's fascinating when someone asks about something I hadn't considered before. It makes me think about familiar concepts in new ways." Jessica, Madison, and Ashley spent their lunch period in the guidance counselor's office, working on the reflection papers and discussing healthy approaches to conflict resolution. The counselor, Mrs. Patterson, had been impressed by the maturity Maya had shown in handling the situation and used it as a teaching moment about emotional intelligence and empathy. "The interesting thing about this incident," Mrs. Patterson told the three girls, "is that Miss Chen demonstrated exactly the kind of social skills you claimed she was lacking. She handled conflict with grace, expressed her feelings clearly, set appropriate boundaries, and showed remarkable forgiveness. These are advanced interpersonal skills." The irony wasn't lost on any of them. In trying to teach Maya social skills, they had ended up receiving a masterclass in emotional maturity from their intended victim. Meanwhile, Zara had returned to her own classes with a new understanding of her relationship with her twin sister. She realized that her protective instincts, while well-intentioned, had sometimes prevented Maya from developing her own voice in confrontational situations. Today had shown that Maya was perfectly capable of standing up for herself when given the space and support to do so. After school, the Chen twins walked home together, processing the day's extraordinary events. Maya carried her restored textbooks. Jessica, Madison, and Ashley had spent their study hall carefully organizing and cleaning every page, and had even created new copies of the most damaged notes. "I keep thinking about what Mrs. Rodriguez said, about how my approach to learning is a gift rather than a flaw. I've spent so much time wondering if there was something wrong with me for being so focused on academics." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "I think today showed everyone, including us, that there are many different ways to be successful socially. Your way just looks different from the traditional high school approach. I feel like I finally understand myself better. I'm not antisocial or arrogant. I'm just someone who finds meaning in different places than most teenagers do. And that's okay." The personal growth that had emerged from such a difficult morning was remarkable. Maya had not only stood up to bullies, but had also gained valuable insight into her own character and worth. She had learned to articulate her choices and defend her values without apologizing for being different. Over the following weeks, the dynamics at Lincoln High School shifted subtly but significantly. Maya's quiet confidence became a model for other students who had been struggling to fit into narrow social categories. Several students began eating lunch in the library, not to be antisocial, but to create study groups and discuss academic interests without judgment. Jessica, Madison, and Ashley completed their community service requirements by tutoring elementary students under Maya's supervision. The experience gave them new respect for Maya's volunteer work and helped them understand that meaningful social contribution could take many different forms. Mrs. Rodriguez used the incident as a case study in her classes about the importance of creating inclusive environments where different personality types could thrive. She emphasized that academic dedication should be celebrated rather than punished, and that true social intelligence meant respecting diverse approaches to learning and interaction. The chemistry quiz that started Maya's day turned out to be one of her best performances all semester. Despite the morning's trauma, her months of careful preparation served her well, and she earned the highest score in the class. But more importantly, she took the quiz with newfound confidence in her own choices and methods. Zara continued to excel in her leadership roles, but with a new appreciation for different types of strength. She learned that protecting her sister sometimes meant stepping back and allowing Maya to find her own voice, rather than always speaking for her. The viral video that Ashley had planned to create never materialized.
Instead, the incident became a positive turning point for everyone involved, demonstrating that conflicts could be resolved through understanding and accountability rather than escalation and retaliation. Maya's story spread throughout the school district as an example of how anti-bullying policies could be effectively implemented, not through punishment alone, but through education, empathy, and restorative justice. Maya's quiet strength became legendary, inspiring other students who felt different or marginalized. And perhaps most importantly, Maya learned that being true to herself wasn't antisocial or arrogant, it was authentic. She didn't need to change who she was to earn respect, she needed to express who she was with confidence and clarity. The shy girl who had started the day cowering on the hallway floor ended it standing tall, surrounded by genuine friends who appreciated her exactly as she was. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.